Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ramblemancy. We are here live on the internet. And when I say live, I mean only kind of because I'm dead. It's fine. I'm low energy today, but we're going to change that during the course of this episode.
I'm gonna be constantly moving like this.
Yeah.
Amethyst Cat Lady the right show here.
Um
Nancy?
uh All right. Well, first of all, hi everybody. Welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about TTRPGs and why we play them. But before we get to that, first, I want to take a second to say, Geek Outs, congratulations on your stream, baby. Also, you now have one of our brand new badges by Olivia Adams at Meaning of Night on Twitter, and they're excellent. So yes, you have that. So welcome, Geek Outs, Karaoke Night 69. Welcome, Gemini Lightning. I found also there is a Heart of Handprints and Amethyst Cat Lady. Welcome, welcome all. Koala Aquabear, welcome. Hello.
Koala.
Let's see, who else did I see? I saw John Numa. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Oh no, stream lag. Stream lag. Pour Monster Energy drink on wax paper on cookie tray, let the liquid evaporate, and then break up the sticky residue, then turn the residue into a powder, then snort energy drink powder.
What was that in reference to?
Probably in terms of my being low energy. Geek Out's giving me
Oh.
some recommendations, which, like, while I will not be able to accomplish that on stream, that's the end of that sentence. Heart of Handprints resubscribe for 5 months and says happy Friday, everyone. It is a happy Friday indeed.
Happy Friday.
Hello. Well, except for the part where Freeman told me earlier that, like, in town today they found like confirmed found murder hornets. Like, they straight up
just
actually.
don't ever leave your house ever again.
I plan not to.
A raccoon. A raccoon.
I don't-
One of my
yeah.
least favorite.
Yeah, that we're not going to
But,
talk about
you know-
that. We're not going to talk about that. That's
Oh no.
Damn.
Don't worry about it. Anyway, Gemini Lightning, thank you so much for gifting a sub to Koala Aquabear. Welcome. You have a scroll.
John Numa is correct. Leaving home is in fact 2019.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. All right. Yes.
Japanduin joins the stream on Murder Hornets. Welcome
Yeah.
to Ramblemancy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Apparently in town today, where I live, the place where I live, there have in fact been confirmed murder hornets. So that's a thing. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
in spite of the misleading start to the stream that Nico got upon entering, this stream is not about murder hornets.
No.
This stream is, in fact, about tabletop RPGs and why we play them. But before we get to that, I just want to point some things out. First of all, if you haven't noticed, in case you were not there when everybody was yelling about it, patrons and Twitch subscribers, if you are on our Discord, should now have access to the cast announcement for It Came from the Loop, which is Caitlin's Tales from the Loop game that's going to be starting actually now in a couple weeks. So you can find that. If you're a patron, you can find it on Patreon. And if you are a Twitch subscriber and you have your Twitch connected to Discord, you can actually find that on our Discord as well. There is a designated channel for discussing It Came from the Loop now that is available to currently only to patrons and to Twitch subscribers, and it will go out to everybody on Wednesday. Everybody, once we make the full announcement, that'll be out there. I will say,
the cast is so good.
yes, as I will say that if you have access to that particular piece of information, please do refrain from talking about it anywhere but in the designated channel for it until Wednesday, where it'll just be, you'll start seeing it. It'll be around we'll make the announcements and stuff. So, and then at that point we'll make that channel. We'll change the permissions on that channel so everybody has access to it. So y'all can freak out together. So yeah. So again, patrons and Twitch subscribers, if you are on our Discord, you can now see the cast announcement for It Came from the Loop. So, yeah, that's a fun thing. And just because it's here and I want to, I'll just go ahead and show the graphic again because it's great. Because I can
Caitlin
do
did
that.
such a good job on these. Like,
Really
they
did.
look so good.
So like the artwork, from what I understand, is some of the artwork from the book, and she did the like very quickly, I might add, surprisingly so for somebody who hates graphic design as much as Caitlin does, put together the logo. But yeah, all right. Friends who roll dice. Hello, is that Ray or Drac? Mystery. It's a mystery.
Mason will look into it.
Yeah.
Gonna have to hire an explorer on that one.
It's
Anyways.
Ray. That's right. Okay, I wasn't sure if Drac was done or not, but I knew Drac was streaming. But hello, Ray. John, thanks for gifting Friends Who Roll Dice that.
This is a scrolls only chat.
This is a scrolls only chat.
All the scrolls.
Scrolls and books.
Oh shit! I accidentally started a hype train. I'm
Oh,
not supposed
no.
to derail the stream.
Oh no. This has. Oh no. All right. Okay.
Oh,
well,
boy.
here we go.
I'm not looking. I can't look.
I am an
look.
agent of chaos.
Geek Outs, thank you so much for gifting those subs. Who do we have? Seth, Chandra, and Sumter McGuy. Welcome. Oh gosh. Oh my god.
Oh my god! Thank you so much, Heart
Heart
of
of
Prince, for those
Imprints.
gift subs.
Well,
Well,
here we
I'm
are,
out.
I suppose.
I'm out.
It's a good thing this is
We come-
Ramblemancy because there's absolutely no expectation that we stay on topic here. So
We ramble.
This is a blush monster only stream now.
Jesus.
Chad is just here to distract.
Oh my God, we're already on a
Well,
level 4 hype train.
You guys.
What?
You can't do this. I mean, you can clearly,
Boys.
but
Please do, but
oh gosh.
oh my god.
Geek Outs, thanks for the cheer. Jesus. So I'm gonna first we distract, then we unpack. And this cat lady, yes, always. That is correct.
Excellent.
I think that might actually just sort of be the official motto of Ramblemancy. So
Afterwards, that is true.
I
Many
legit
times-
do straight, like these guys will tell you, I do eat absolutely after every single episode of Ramblemancy because I forget to do it beforehand usually, or just the timing is off.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go on a tangent when we haven't started the main topic yet. Correct.
Fair.
We're really just galaxy braining out here. Is what we're doing by not starting.
That's very true. Oh my gosh. More cheers.
Oh, all right.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Awesome. Okay.
Welcome, Koala.
Welcome. Hopefully we are slightly less robot-y for you now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I definitely forgot to hit the record button on this stream. So, we're
wow.
live, but we're not recording. So I'm just going to have to download this episode later. Anyway, because, I'm so completely on top of putting all of Ramblemancy on YouTube. I definitely don't have like several months worth of backup or anything like that. Okay, we're gonna start now, if that's okay with you, chat. If we have chat's permission to begin.
May we do.
Okay. Well, since we are here now at the point of the episode where we begin the episode, all right, Koala has granted us permission. Then we will begin. So since we're here, John,
Yeah.
what do you got for us?
I have a lot of things written in some very bright pink on this little note
Oh.
card, but I don't
Excellent.
know if any of them are going to be great right out of the gate. So I'm just going to kind of
No.
ramble until I actually mance, and then we'll hope that gets us somewhere.
You are fanciful with your words, John.
Yeah, why? Thank you. I am, as my handle indicates, the resident bard.
Correct.
Although I think Lucas has me beat on the costume. Actually,
Hmm?
you've got that
I
killer bard costume.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, the topic for this week, being like why we choose, was kind of like born out of the question like why we choose the games that we choose to play, and that could be I think we kind of plan to talk about anything from like video games to tabletop RPGs, kind of like anything between is fair game. I think
Yeah, I think that's probably fine.
just to set the bounds of the discussion. So any and all games are welcome in this evening's chit chatting. But I suppose like a good place to maybe start this discussion is to maybe like just think about things that the things that draw us to games, perhaps. Like why do you choose to play, why do you choose, or why do we choose the game systems that we choose over the over other ones? Flirting with NPCs, says Geekouts. Good. You can do that in a variety of systems, actually. Actually, I can't remember which system it was. I've never actually played it, but I do remember Alex Perkins was part of a just an artist that I follow on Twitter is like was part of a project, and I remember the game being called Roll to Date, and it was literally like a little tabletop game that you could play that was just like a dating sim. And regrettably, I have not checked it out, but flirting with NPCs is absolutely a valid goal.
Yeah, I I was gonna say, like, on the subject of, this isn't on the subject of on not on like tabletop RPGs, but at the very least, about like just gaming in general. I will agree with that. Like the NPCs, the interactive characters, like Koala was saying. It's why some of my favorite games of all time are, yes, Mass Effect, Dragon Age. Thank you, friends who roll dice. Ray, you're right on top of this for me. And oh gosh, Knights of the Old Republic. Those are some of my favorite games of all time for that exact reason. It's also one of the things that I did really love about Fallout 4, is that the NPC followers were a lot more. They were a lot deeper than ones in previous games, I think. So that was kind of cool that they had a little bit more interactivity and stuff. But yeah, so those are some of the things that I really like. It's also why, and I'm gonna one of my favorite Skyrim mods of all time is interesting NPCs, because they have so many cool NPCs with awesome backstories and like fully voiced dialogue, and it's just perfect. Like, I love that crap. It's so good.
One moment.
I do not have. Well, I don't have a system for to get mods. Otherwise, I would mod the heck out of Skyrim. But I do like the dialogue for the Serana's character.
Oh
Specifically.
yeah.
That one was good. For
See,
yeah.
it's funny that I actually really like that, because I thought the same thing. Serana as a companion in Skyrim was like she's, there are many companion mods in Skyrim that like do just amazing things, but as far as like the default stuff, she was above and beyond all of, like, in terms of AI, in terms of dialogue, in terms of everything. She was just above and beyond all of the other, like, the other followers in Skyrim. And anyway, yeah. Yeah, exactly, aka Laura Bailey. I know. That's another thing. I can't play that game with Serana as a companion without just hearing Laura Bailey. So
True.
yeah. Nico just noticed your sweatshirt, John.
Oh yes, Matt and I are both, I think, wearing the same Brigade hoodie right now, and I suspect that Nico is also wearing it.
Also, Ray says, Fallout New Vegas. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Correct. Yeah.
Anyway, chat, please thank the kitty for murdering the wasp that had just found its way into my room. That's what
Oh,
she was. That's what
That's
she
the
was
only
over there
kind of
doing.
murder wasp or murder hornet that I want. The kind that has been murdered.
yeah.
Exactly.
Agreed. Absolutely
That's
agreed.
the only kind that I'm okay with.
I saw her like fucking going wild over there on camera, and then I looked over, and she was like, she had like swatted it out of the air with her paws, and then was
Mhm.
just like playing with it on the ground, and it was trying to crawl away underneath my laundry basket. So
Like,
I just went and finished it off.
There you go. Um, but
Hmm.
that brings us to another interesting thing about game systems is combat systems in games.
true.
Yes.
Well, I can say
Listen,
that
I will
D&D
segue anything.
certainly
Um,
D&D is certainly one of my favorites just because it's made for it. Um, and when I first played Yorith was made for combat, so really Yorith was perfect for D&D.
yeah.
Um,
Well, that's an interesting thing. So, what's on that
yeah.
subject? I think it was Megan Kenrick the other day who was like tweeting
Mhm.
about gosh, about like how um the times in D&D where she feels the most creative are during combat. And I think John, it was you that was saying, "Well, yeah, because like that's what the rules are
Yeah.
for. So of course
Mhm.
you would, because that's like it's the place where the rules allow you the most, like the game design is like intended for you to exist."
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, like D&D, and I remember having this conversation when that tweet came along, and like yeah, like D&D's rooted in a war game.
mhm.
This is again like the subject of a paper that I wrote ages ago, but like to anyone who is not super aware, AD&D was essentially like a hack of the old like game these expansive game systems that people would use to simulate historical battles. And so like each edition has kind of like refined it further and further from the age old what if I could, instead of playing this army, just play a wizard who could throw fireballs. And that's how we got D&D. And so like when the focus of those games was like basically exclusively combat, like that's the roots of the game. So
Yeah. I
modern editions tend to like hold over that focus on fight and stuff.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Amethyst Cat Lady. Lucas, do I correctly recall some battles regarding ducks or rubber ducks? Wait, what are you talking about? And
Hmm.
No, I remember that. No, wait, hold
I
on. It's a different thing.
I don't okay, explain. Um
I'm thinking of a different time that the dagger of random in one of your games turned the wing of a dragon into a bunch of bananas.
mhm.
Oh, the Chaos
I thought
Dagger?
it was yeah, the chaos
Mhm.
Oh, I love the Chaos Dagger.
Um let's see.
dagger.
Heart of Hands Princess, as much as I love characters, I think I tend towards games that enable exploration. Yes, that's actually a good point, and I really have started to really come around on that too. Um, or actually, maybe that's not entirely true. I think I may have always really liked that as well. Um, but because like, okay, so recently I've been playing like a few months ago I was really into Elite Dangerous, which is basically
Mhm.
just a big space exploration game.
Space
Um,
trucking.
space trucking simulator. Um, and more recently, I've been playing Empyrean Galactic Survival, which also has a very much exploration-y sort of uh, feel to it. But those kinds of things are really interesting to me. So I actually totally feel you on that.
Hmm.
Um,
Like one of the games that I played recently was Beyond Blue. And that's just like it's essentially like a diving simulator meets an aquarium like educational video. It's with a story tacked onto it. It's like a I don't know, like maybe a 5 6 hour long game that is just all about exploring this reef and like researching this pod of whales that's there. And for somebody like me who really, really, really enjoys like snorkeling and who really, really enjoys swimming, there's something like the exploration is fun, right? Because there's something fun about just like being out there in that environment. But I think one of the things that draws me to exploration style games is especially the ones that focus so heavily on just like nailing an aesthetic.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's true of you in other exploration style games, but like the environment, I suppose the environment has to be interesting if it's going to be an exploration focused game.
Hmm.
But
yeah, it's
um,
it's one of the things that's not often talked about this particular game that I'm going to mention next, but it's the thing that I found the most compelling about it is when I got really into World of Warcraft, I really just liked how big the world felt, right? And how
Mm-hmm.
like traveling around and like there were times when I like didn't know what to do next where I would just like get on whatever favorite mount that I had and just like go from place to place and just look at things, just looking at the environments and whatever. And I think like that's a it's not really something that most people talk about World of Warcraft for, which is the like, oh yeah, I just like going around looking at stuff, looking at the environments, exploring. It's not really like a key element of that game, but I that's what I really enjoyed about it. Um,
I'm, I mean, I've always been like a woodland person, and I was raised in a wooded area. I love going hiking, and that's kind of my thing. Um, so when I'm playing a game, for instance, Skyrim, which we've already mentioned, exploring the offshoots and taking the shortcuts and not taking the main road are always my favorite ways to get around Skyrim. I'm sure, I mean, I'm not the only one.
yeah,
But those are the reasons why I love to cut across country is because that's just kind of where I love what I would love to do, what I love doing in real life
yeah.
is getting off the path, the beaten path, and finding my own.
I saw Ray said something earlier here, and I want to go back to it. So in TTRPGs, 80% of people I've played with, I've had to teach the fluidity and
Hmm.
freedom of combat. You have the power to flavor things however the heck you want, and that's, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important because like that's the thing. Like you could play like if you're playing D&D, you could just go in and be like, I hit him with my sword, and that's fine, and you can play that way, and you can still have fun that way. I know we have many times,
Mm-hmm.
but when you do things like flavoring the specific, like saying very dramatic things about your attack and just making every moment something to, like, I will say an example that I had actually completely forgotten about until Lily brought it up last. Was it last Ramblemancy?
Mm-hmm.
Is that when they were on? I don't know what we. No, it was the time before that.
Yeah,
Whenever they were
2 years
on,
ago.
whenever Lily and Drac were here, Lily brought it up, and I had completely forgotten that I'd done this. But like that Gen Con one shot that we did last year, where
Mm-hmm.
basically when we were in combat, I basically just went around and was like, all right, like what are you doing? And then they on their turn they would tell me like what spell they were casting or what attack they were doing. But then I was like, okay, cool. What does that look like? And it just like gave an
Mm.
extra like push to that, and it was just combat became so much more interesting, which is great because with like 9 players in a game,
Mhm.
combat can very easily become tedious. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
really cool a way that we like made it so that it wasn't that way, right? Which was essentially
Yeah.
saying like,
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's something I realized too that with our home game, Yorth had there would be like there'd be a session, half a session or so, where Yorth would be in like not like a fighting sparring thing, and it would take up a while. So making that interesting and fun to watch makes it that much better. Like
yeah,
how you land the blow,
Yeah.
how you go in for the tackle. Yeah, yeah.
It's that kind of thing, and like especially the way that I know that you tend to run, you tend to encourage that when you run games, Lucas, and it's one of the reasons I think that originally I kind of chose to play the character that I did in our home D&D game and the one that I played at Gen Con last
hmm
year, and I think that's also one of the things that made combat feel like as dramatic as it did is because I was playing a bard who basically narrates what everyone else is doing by way of casting his spells. And so that's a super fun thing for me to do is to like especially when you're playing a character like that, it's even more fun when other people are super into it because that gives me even cooler shit to like say and do as I cast spells.
yeah. Um,
I feed off of it.
yeah. Okay, so Nico has a question, which is, okay, got to ask: fast travel in games, yay or nay? Okay, here's how I feel about this. I generally, if I'm new to a game, I don't use fast travel because I'm just sort of experiencing the game. And it's hard to do that if you're only going to the places that you know you need to go to. However, there comes a point, like for example, I'll use Skyrim and like the Fallout games as an example here. There are mods that disable those things, or in some cases there are game modes that allow you to disable fast travel. And I can't do that because there's always going to be that time, that one time when I need to fast travel, and I just get mad at the fact that I have to just walk the whole way, and I'm upset because I just want to do the thing that comes next. But like if I'm engaged, if I'm fully in it, and I'm able to just then I'm able to just sort of like wander around, and I don't need to use fast travel. I'm never going to be the person in the games who's like, yes, always disable fast travel. That's never going to be me, because I know there's always going to be that time, that one time where I'm like, I really want to get to the thing that's next, and then I have to walk, and it's terrible.
Especially when it's like a quest.
Yes,
you just need
exactly.
to finish off real quick. Like, okay, I just need to go. Oh, it's on the other side of the map. Oh.
See, like if it's something like, all right, you've walked across the entire length and breadth of Skyrim. Now take the scroll back to the guy.
Yeah.
Huh?
And that's the end of the quest. Like, I will absolutely fast travel
It's
back.
like,
Or
any
yeah.
like the best example of that in Skyrim is like the epic journey that you take to get into Blackreach, right?
Oh my god, I
The
know.
epic journey that you go on, and it's so cool. Like, not just getting to
Yeah.
the ruin, right? You get there, and it's just this colossal ice shelf that you have to climb up onto, and you can see the dwarven ruin is embedded in it, and then you get into that dwarven ruin, and it leads you into another dwarven ruin, and then eventually, and like it's like the fucking Mines of Moria in Skyrim, and
you
it's
have to
just
set your carrying capacity to 7,000.
Oh,
Otherwise,
gosh.
you'll never get out.
and
Like,
it's just so cool and so epic and interesting. It's honestly my favorite part of that entire game.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, now go back.
I know.
And I'm just like, absolutely not. I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, now go back. No.
I'm fairly certain
Yeah.
the first time I did that quest, I got completely lost in those tunnels.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If it's for inventory management, that is the other time that I will fast travel. I will absolutely fast travel back to my house, dump all my shit, fast travel back to where I was, and then resume my gameplay experience.
I always just think about this one time where Eric Campbell tweeted making fun of Rachel Seeley because she was playing Skyrim and was over encumbered and just like chose to walk back to town in real time. And he was like teasing her about it. And every time that happens to me in game, I'm like, this one's for you, Rachel.
One's for you.
This one's for you. I see you.
Pour one out for Rachel Seeley.
I see you.
This you're talking to the guy who was like, fuck, I'm over encumbered, and then like fast traveled from Lower Whiterun to Upper Whiterun.
So what I'll usually do now that I know a little bit better than I did the first time, I'll stock up on strength potions.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
I do that, and then I chug one and I fast travel to wherever I need to go, Whiterun, and then like slowly walk my way to the blacksmith
Yeah.
to get rid of my 50 iron swords that I picked up off of undead for some reason.
Yeah. And I think both I'm looking at this, and I think both Nico and Ray are making good points, which is fast travel is helpful for like people who don't often have the time to like pour into games that take like hours to do anything useful in. And also, yes, absolutely, neurodiverse folks. Let me just explain to you right now. I would play so much less of almost any game if I didn't have the fast travel option at least available to me, because especially like games like Skyrim and Fallout and whatever, because I get not distracted due to ADHD. I get overwhelmed if I can't accomplish all of the breadth of things there are to do. If I can't accomplish them in a like relatively in a way that makes it feel like I'm actually making progress in them, and then I will stop playing that game. So that is an excellent point. But I also think that Nico's point about like improving the means of traveling fast within games is also good, because again, World of Warcraft, like I mentioned before, love that game, but it improved I know this is a controversial opinion, and I know not everybody shares it, but that game for me improved like 100-fold when I got my first flying mount because it felt so cool. I spent so much time walking around on the ground, like exploring from the ground and running from place to place. And then I got my flying mount, and all of a sudden I was seeing the same places, but from a totally different perspective, and it just felt so cool. So like, there is certainly merit to that point as well. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, though.
Yeah, I think what we're to center this on like why we play games. We play games so that we can play the game, right? So that we can do the thing that the game is trying to, like the kind of game, the genre, or whatever we're playing is trying to accomplish. You know, if you're playing a hack and slash game, then ideally you spend most of your time hacking and slashing. If you're playing a management game like Animal Crossing, ideally you spend most of your time like doing Animal Crossing things and not doing like the parts of the game that like aren't playing it so much, or that are like the secondary or tertiary things, which, you know, like inventory management is a part of many, many, many games. But it's also like, if we take something like Diablo or Path of Exile, it's the least interesting part of those games.
I'm sorry, I'm watching the Gremlins. Like, I'm just watching her in the background.
Well, she derailed so perfectly.
I need to get a second cam for when Suki's in the room so that I can just like, you know, selfie stick you guys up over my head and be like, all right, here's the cat cam.
That's not really a bad idea at all. You should do that if you can. I think it also really depends on the game too, or I guess it was already mentioned several times, but like, what's the game called we played for a couple months, like Death Island or Temple Doom or something, where we go through the island and then
Tomb of Annihilation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For some reason, it was just not coming to me.
Yeah.
But that's a game where, gosh, I absolutely love the exploration part. And
Yeah.
the other part we already talked about this, can go away as far as I'm concerned. Just extend that out.
Yeah. I felt like it's such a well designed game, like, or not game. It's such a well designed world space in and then the disservice that is done to it by the storyline that is, you know, which is why I every time we bring this up, I have to say it because I'm trying to keep myself accountable here. But one day, I'm gonna run the Tomb of Annihilation module, but without the storyline. It's just gonna be this sort of open world sandbox sort of thing where people go, and then we make the plot line together while playing it because of things we decide. Because there's a lot of very sophisticated like faction relationships and stuff like that in that game, and the exploration part of it. And I remember when we were playing it, I was like getting excited early on because I was like, oh man, we can do all this cool stuff. We have to go hit up some dungeons so that we can come back, so we can fund our expedition, so we can get to the Tomb of Annihilation. And then when we finally got to the Tomb of Annihilation, it was just kind of like, and now everybody's dead. So you're all dead now.
Sure.
So everything you did, and like I would say it's not really the fault of the module itself, because it is
true.
It is designed after like an earlier the Tomb of Annihilation is just like a. Anyway, the point is they should have just kept the Island of Chult and the Tomb of Annihilation as totally separate things.
Yeah, like an extension if you wanted to
like,
include
if
that
you want
later
to
on.
listen, if you want to do just this meat grinder funhouse dungeon, don't let us play through several levels of content and getting attached to our characters before we even get to the tomb. Don't do that.
If I'm rolling a new character every single session, just start me off with that.
Just start me off with that, yeah.
Murder my character in the third room or in the second room or something. Not even in the second room, but like in the hallway to the second room.
Yeah. Anyway, we've talked a lot about various games and things we like about them, but we haven't really gotten too far into John's question, which was why do we play the things we play. We got a little bit with characters and like character interactions and exploration. Those are all very cool things. I actually think this is Gemini Lightling's question is actually perfectly leads us back into this, which is when you play a
Yeah.
TTRPG, what are the things that you look forward to the most? So I think that's a very, very related question to why do you play them. Um, guys, got anything?
Um, for me, I think like I so often as a player at a table like have moments where like when I sit down with a new group of people to play or a new campaign or like a new game or something like that, there tends to be like one or two other PCs that always just like I click with super well, whether it's the character or the player or both. And Luke, Lucas, you know about this tendency of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I really look forward to like those inter-character moments and like the interplay between characters in tabletop RPGs. I love little role-playing moments, especially when they're attached to the story, but even independent of that. Like
Yeah.
I love how that plays out. Like Sam Sykes, who's an author that I've read a couple of books by, wrote a really interesting thing about character cores, which are immutable facts about or what he describes as like immutable facts about a character that the plot kind of crashes against in the way that like waves crash against a stone, and then that sends like the plot sort of reverberates off that. His example being like one of his examples being like Ned Stark in the Game of Thrones series. Ned Stark's like character core is that he doesn't change. Like he is honorable to a fault. Like he values even his honor above even his life, and he dies more or less because of that. Spoilers for Game of Thrones. It's way past now, but so like
Listen, we can be concerned about spoilers when like new content comes out for them.
Game of Thrones is.
but anyway, like my point in talking about character cores though is that TTRPG characters and especially like narrative driven games like Cypher tend to like you build your character around that core. Like my character is this person who does this thing. Hello, cat. Um, is a character who does this and has these character traits, and so like when all you know about your character is your character core, the plot and like what happens in the game, that structure tends to like reverberate off them in very interesting ways. And so like especially if you have a very narrative focused group, you can have some very interesting moments between players, and I think that's what I look forward to about TTRPGs. So like in a sentence, I look forward to role playing with other player
Absolutely.
characters.
Yeah. I saw Ray said in answer to this, creativity, companionship, a chance to escape. Those are those are good. Those are good answers, I think. Yeah. Um and I agree. Gemini Lightning says for me it's all about doing things I would never do. I never create characters that are like me. Yeah. Um Koala says I love playing characters and making decisions that they would make, but I wouldn't. Okay, so same. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of some consensus happening there. Um, either make totally ridiculous characters that are funny concepts, or super personal characters that help me deal with IRL issues. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think that's really interesting. So I don't know that I've ever done that on purpose. It has happened certainly, but I don't know that I've ever done that on purpose in a TTRPG. Um, but I do think that that is like a pretty. I've from like conversations that I've had with various people who play TTRPGs that seems like a really common thing, right? Like where people. Well, I think it's more common for it to be like sort of accidental that it just or incidental, but and then they just kind of lean into it once they realize it. But yeah, that's really interesting. I could see how that would be pretty like how that would be compelling to do. John, you looked like you were gonna say something.
No, I was just gonna say that like that's a big mood for me, Ray, because like either I play I actually I really do tend to play characters that lean into very specific like aspects of my personality. Like there's some things that are very hard for me to detach from my characters, and I have done something similar. Like my one of the characters that I'm playing right now in a Cypher game, I gave some of the same issues that I have in real life with my own chronic illness, and it's very interesting playing like effectively a superhero who also has the same disability that I have. It's really interesting to see the world kind of through my eyes, but kind of not really. you know. And like there's in many ways that doesn't have a huge impact on the game, but it does affect like how I think both about myself and about my character. And it's different because then you're thinking about somebody else, kind of. I mean, your character is still very much a part of you, but that lens that you filter them through, or that way that you filter your thought processes through the lens of somebody else, is almost like in itself can be kind of like a method of self-examination or self-care. I'm a little bit making D&D sound like therapy, which it isn't always, doesn't have to be, but it can be.
Heart of Hand Princess. Ugh, you are all making me want to find time in my crazy schedule to play an RPG. I've barely played any myself. If you can, if y- I understand if you can't, but I highly recommend carving out a little bit of time to do it if you can find the
Mm-hmm.
right group, because it can be extremely helpful. Like Ray has said, like Ray says just a little bit here. I find it isn't on purpose. A character will find you with a story to tell that to help you with a problem. It's your choice as to if you want to explore that or not. And I absolutely agree. And the same
Yeah.
is actually true, I would say, even from running games perspective. Like from not playing a character but rather running the game, there have been so many things that I've like worked through in my own brain about me, about my life and stuff like that just by running those games. And yeah, it's
I know there was a particular character that you guys met in our home game, Lucas, that I realized that I didn't write intentionally this way, but somebody else pointed it out to me, and afterwards I was like, "Oh shit! Wow, that really her whole arc, that whole 3 episode arc with Katya. I was just like, oh, that really is just an examination of something that I'm going through right now, isn't it?"
yeah. Yeah. So if all that to say, if you can manage it, and if you can with like the right group of people that you trust, um I highly recommend it because it can be a very positive thing if you allow it to be. So yeah. Um, I let's see. Karaoke Night 69 said, I don't feel very experienced or skilled as a player, but I still look forward to games even though I don't know what I'm doing. I love following a story, but in my own way. It's very fun to be another person, even if it's a version of myself where no one can tell me what to do or how to play. Yeah. Yeah.
I will say, Karaoke Night 69 has also played in my home game, and they are one of my favorite players at that table because I never know what they are going to do, and it's amazing. I never know.
Yeah.
I absolutely am attacking you personally right now. It's amazing. I love running the game for you and playing with you.
um, I'll say for myself, I'll answer this question now. I think there was a time when I would have had a very definitive answer for this, but like I think over time the reasons we play games and the things we get out of them change, you
Mhm.
know. And they change for various things depending they change based on like what you need at that time. They change depending on what things you like, what stories other stories you're engaging with, and um the people that you're playing with and the things that you want out of them, I think change over time. And that's how it's been for me. But right now I'm sort of at a point where I'm sure if I sat here and I thought about it, I could come up with if I thought about it long enough, I could come up with a bunch of like specific things that are like, yes, this is the thing that I look forward to the most. But I also know that it'll be minutes from now where that answer will be different. You know, like at any given
Mhm.
moment, that answer could be wildly different than any other moment. So I don't know that
Yeah.
and I know that feels kind of like a cop out answer, but it's absolutely just true. Like it would feel disingenuous to me to give you like a specific answer because I know that minutes from now, I'm like, oh, but actually it's actually more this than that. And then another time, another day, I'll be like, today I'd really like this out of my game. So I don't know.
Hmm.
That's probably the most honest answer I can give to that question.
Sometimes I just need a distraction out of a game. And like for me, crunchy games are very good for that. Like games that have like a lot of rules and like planning out my character and stuff like that, whether it's games or whether it's video games or it's tabletop RPGs, games like that tend to be very good distractions for me because they engage they engage my like mental faculties in like learning the system and like how to operate it and then how to play or like play with it and manipulate it. And so like really complicated like action RPGs or like more crunchy systems in tabletop RPGs like D&D um, are those kind of like things for me. But like when I really want when there's a story that I want to play out, or when there's something that I like that I feel like I want to try and like work through a character. Like there are other games for that. There's a few that I have by Matthew Graveland, who's a really cool like indie games creator that are as much games as they are just like little writing exercises. But Tapestry was really cool for that. It's a fun way of just like generating almost a freeform story out of these little two-sided cards. So
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at chat here. Freeman, did you have an answer for what you look forward to the most?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and gosh, it varies. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, definitely is a great way to escape, to get out, to just kind of put 2020 on pause for a second, or any year, honestly, any year that I play D&D or tabletop games. But to be honest, D&D has been the majority of it. It's definitely like I love the chaos, which is why I have loved playing chaotic characters. This most recent one's not as chaotic. It's playing a more sharper character,
Mm-hmm.
but I love the chaos. I love causing chaos too if I
I
can.
will cause problems on purpose.
Yeah, I, I like hold back a little bit, then I'm like, no, this is fun. Like I'm gonna pull from the deck of many things and see what happens.
Oh, there's a reason I specifically put that in front of you, because I'm like, it'd be really funny if Freeman got a hold of that, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Chaos Scrape, perfect timing.
I don't know that there could have been any better timing than that,
Wow.
my friend.
That
Welcome,
is
Like,
welcome.
wow. That is so cool.
Welcome indeed. Nico says, I love how everyone, including me, let's be real here, is like, I play TTRPGs for stories and companionship, etc. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like distant crunching noises.
crunch, crunch,
that's
crunch, crunch.
that's fair. That is yeah, that's completely fair. See, I enjoy crunch from time to time as well. Like that's the thing that it depends on what kind of crunch. Because like, okay, I don't know if this is a thing that anybody has like picked up on from me, but like I have never been a particularly competitive person in anything. Like not
Mhm.
in games, not in like activities, certainly not in terms of like just living life. Um I just I find the whole concept just exhausting, like even to think about. And so when it comes to crunchy systems, I like them, but not if the crunch is to serve competitiveness, right? Because then I'm just like, I'm done. I want no part of that. But if it's just crunch, like for example, Star Trek Adventures is a very crunchy system, but I love it so much. I love the nitty gritty pieces and seeing how they all fit together and like making them fit together in a way that optimizes what like the outcome. The same thing with like D&D characters. I enjoy some of the crunch of it, right? Because as John will tell you, having had me as a player in his game, I am I would like to think the most positive variety of rules lawyer that there is, where I basically am like, okay, here's what the rule says, and here's what the rule says. Now you could interpret this a variety of different ways, and then just basically trying to like right, like those are things that I enjoy. I enjoy that kind of stuff, like figuring out. I think I'm a very mechanically minded person. And I like knowing how things work and messing with them. But when it comes to crunch, like to serve competition, I'm just kind of like, no thanks.
I just very fundamentally enjoy that aspect of running the game for you. Because there's so many times when I'm doing that where you're just like, okay, so, and I'm just like, Hit me.
I've trained John so that every time I say, so John, hypothetically, John's like, mm-hmm.
It's just Pavlovian at this
Yeah,
point.
I've
like-
trained John so that now whenever I'm a player and whenever I start anything with hypothetically John, there's a much higher chance he's going to say yes to me. So, um,
Yeah, Derpenduin like makes an interesting point about Cypher, and I don't think it's traditionally crunchy in the way that we think of crunchy systems in terms of like Pathfinder, and like there's a weight for individual screws in a box of screws that you need to make your jeweler's kit, and like
Mhm.
something like that, or like there's rules for like using the screwdriver or something like that. Like, it's not necessarily like that, but with Cypher, like there are a lot of, I think, abilities or ideas that go into things, but so much of Cypher is just like arguing with the GM essentially, or like pitching your abilities or the moment to the GM, that I think like it doesn't feel like it in the moment to me. Cypher feels like there are a lot of pieces to know, but they're kind of streamlined into a couple of very specific categories, and that makes them very accessible.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because like it depends on if we're defining crunchy like from the perspective of yes, Amethyst Cat Lady, that one was for you. If we're defining that as like all of the different things that need to go into this that we need to take into account, then I could see the argument for that for Cypher being crunchy. And because it's streamlined in the sense that it's not the mechanics are designed so that they don't bog everything down, but when it comes to actually making a roll in Cypher, you have to sort of sit there and go, okay, so I have this ability that affects this roll in this way. I have this thing that might help me here. I have this that might do that, right? And like basically just taking like and reducing the difficulty in those ways. And I think that's um that could be considered crunchy in that way, trying to find the different mechanics to pull them in and figure out how
Mm-hmm.
they work and in any given situation. But
Yeah, it's nice that like Cypher is complex, kind of like Ray says, in that it covers a lot of bases, but at the same time, like you do you do one thing ever in Cypher, and that is attempt to meet the difficulty of a die roll, right? You're always doing the same thing, and I suppose like kind of in D&D, but like Cypher, attacking is a task in just the same way that like attacking someone has the same rules. It uses the same things that doing anything else does. And so I don't need to know separate rules for combat and problem solving, because like they all fall under the purview of the same like
right,
method of dice rolling.
right. Also, Geekouts brings up the 5 paragraphs for grapple checks from is that the 3.5 version? Because I know Pathfinder simplified it significantly, but it was still up there. Yeah, 3. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Sounds like
that
3.5.
that crap is nuts. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. Pathfinder did like don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that Pathfinder did not do right, but totally throwing out the grapple rules from 3.5 was certainly not one of them.
Yeah, having feats be the primary method of customization for your character in 3.5 was also a choice that they made.
Pathfinder kind of did that too. Um,
True.
Man, okay. I was thinking of a question earlier, but I was also getting very involved in what was happening in chat. God, okay, I can't remember what question I was gonna ask. um,
uh, Crunch versus not crunch was actually a bullet point on my note card. So, like, way to go, chat, for getting there before for getting to it before I did.
yeah. It also I think depends a little bit on what type of game we're playing. Because if what I want to do, because there have been Heart of Handprints. Thanks so much
Bye,
for
Heart
being
of
here.
Handprints.
We'll see you next time. Hopefully on Wednesday when we have our season 1 wrap up for Infinite Horizon.
Shit's gonna
Um,
be wild.
Yeah.
yeah.
in which you may ask us questions such as, how dare? And what gives you the right?
I will not be answering those questions. But what was I gonna say? Right. So crunch. It depends on the type of game you're playing. Like if you are like I've done before these dungeon crawl sessions in my home game where Freeman probably remembers like the Beholder's Lair where I like mapped out the whole thing and I put traps in specific places, made notes for myself as to what was where and like all that stuff. I had fucking graph paper where I like as an aside, I saw somebody on Twitter today saying, "What do TTRPG players need graph paper for? What does it what purpose does it serve?" And
Oh, let me tell you.
I'm like, it serves a purpose if you play in a specific way. Um,
Also, I just love graph paper, but
it's just
whatever.
great.
It's
Anyway,
great.
but
Map drawing,
yeah,
my friends. Like,
Absolutely.
um,
Oops, sorry.
and listen, if you don't need graph paper for the way that you play your games, that's totally fine. Do what you do. But I will tell you, it serves a purpose.
Keeping track of a dungeon layout map with squares where represent movement is also very helpful too for your personal
Yeah.
notes,
But
I would say.
anyway, the point is, if you're doing, I love those sessions, right? Like those sessions that I've done because then they involve a lot more strategic thinking on the part of the players because they're like, all right, resource expenditure. It becomes much more important to actually consider resource expenditure as opposed to if you're not doing the sort of the crunchier dungeon crawly kind of stuff, then your gauge for resource expenditure becomes a little bit more nebulous, a little bit more subjective. Um, but yeah, like I enjoy that kind of thing. But also, if you're doing story stuff, if you're doing a much more narrative type game, then that crunch is probably gonna get in your way. So I don't know. Yeah, it depends. I'd say. Ray says I did 3 talks in 1 week on crunch versus not crunch. Yep.
So what you're telling me, Ray, is that you're going to be writing your master's thesis about crunch versus not crunch in tabletop RPGs. That's what I'm hearing. Like,
Ooh.
you can write yours alongside Caitlin's, which I think is about it and it chapter 2.
Ooh, Lucas, you bring a good point. I did. I don't know. I don't remember what I said. I don't pay attention to the words that come out of my mouth generally. Which point was that? Uh, Also, Geek Out says I have a hard time staying focused when it comes to learning new rules. ADHD is something. It sure is. Anyway, the way Cipher System is written, it helped with the learning process. If a game is overly complicated and too wordy, I shut down. Yes, okay. I will rave forever about the way that the Cipher System rulebook is written, where it's written as if like Monty Cook himself is sitting down and just having a nice chat with me about like, all right, so listen, here's what you're gonna want to do, right? Like it's it's just written like they're talking to me, like they're all sitting down and like talking to me, explaining how the thing works, which is frankly the way I've learned every system I've ever played, is not by reading the rules, but by somebody telling me how they work. That's not true. Star Trek Adventures, I kind of learned by reading the book, but mostly I watched it by watching, or learned it by watching Shielded Tomorrow. But still, so it like kind of the same thing, really. Like somebody explaining it to me.
I was just saying, you can win points with me by writing your tabletop RPG book and then like putting exclamation points in there sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, which I'm using that as just a way of saying like, write in a way that doesn't feel like I'm reading a tech manual.
See, that's the thing. Like, okay, I had a supervisor for at a job that I worked a while ago, where I was essentially doing a lot of like publications and things like that. And one of the things that he said to me that I have like fully internalized is basically like, listen, people reading, like when you're writing for content, it's with like people's attention spans being what they are, and also just like the nature of the internet and all that, you have to write in a way that's going to keep people interested. Now, while I have never and never will I have not and never will ascribe to the whole write like only 2 or 3 paragraphs for this thing, or write only like 3 paragraphs for this. I am a fucking wordy motherfucker. But I am very long-winded as well. I do say that there is something about like writing important information in a way that is much more conversational. There's something about that I have fully internalized and like not making everything sound like an epic, like I'm writing an academic journal or like you know, there is absolutely something to be said about that, and frankly it's just easier to write too. So like so there's that. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's me ranting about nothing in particular. Um or smiley faces in the case of MCDM. Yes, absolutely. I heard that they'd done that with their books, and I'd completely forgotten about it until you just mentioned it. Yeah,
Really, I need to get some of their books now. That's
I need
amazing.
strongholds and followers so badly. I just I will probably almost never use it, but I just want it. Um,
One of my players got me strongholds and followers, and I like it very. It's very fun.
yeah. Um, Ray says there's a link in TTRPGs that crunch equals not narrative, but they aren't mutually exclusive. Burning Wheel is super crunchy, but has a strong narrative focus. Yeah, no, and I didn't mean to imply that they are mutually exclusive. Just that there's a much greater likelihood that crunch is going to end up getting your way in the way of narrative stuff than it not doing that. So, but yeah, no, absolutely, they're not mutually exclusive at all. Sometimes actually crunch can even serve narrative, um, which is I suppose really the root of the entire concept of tabletop gaming. So like it's sort of like the entire concept of it, you know, having a rules light systems notwithstanding. But yeah,
Mhm.
like
Finding finding ways to imitate things in real life,
mm-hmm.
uh, but with click clack math rocks.
Here's I think here's why the reason that I say things like crunch is going to get in the way of narrative. The reason is because one time I tried to teach myself GURPS.
I'm so
That's it.
sorry.
That's all of that. That's the only thing.
I'm so
Oh,
sorry for
GURPS.
you, Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why I took so easily to yeah. It was maybe why I took so well to Pathfinder, because I learned Pathfinder like right after trying to learn GURPS.
And so anything that made any kind of sense
Yeah.
was just like instantly
My
miles
brain just
better.
latched onto that, like I understand this, which is probably why I had like half the Pathfinder book memorized by the time we were like before, like by the time we switched over to 5e I had like half the Pathfinder book memorized. Listen, there comes a point where trying to be too simulationist in your game design just gets in the way of the game. Like
It is important, I think, when designing your game, to remember that the purpose of the game is to play the game
yeah. Yeah.
and not to arbitrate the way in which you play the game.
Yeah. It's sort of like it's actually kind of similar like in writing too though. There are tricks that writers, like fiction writers, use to get across a feeling or a or to set a scene or a tone or to talk about themes or to indicate themes without being explicit about
Mhm.
them. It's kind of similar, I think, there like in game design, where you can get away with just with like indicators for something. Like you can get away like in Star Trek Adventures is actually a really great example, the extended task, right?
Mhm.
Extended tasks in Star Trek Adventures are a great way. You are not sitting there tediously poring over hours and hours of work doing one minute thing after another. But boy, do the extended tasks sure make you feel like you did, but in a way that actually still is fun and engaging, right? Like, and I think that's a thing that the creators of GURPS may not have fully internalized. That you can make it feel like somebody did something in a game without actually making them do every single part of it. Uh,
Mhm. You can, to use an earlier just like thing that I pulled out of my head, you can make a way to figure out somebody hand screwing a screw into a piece of wood in a game. Like you can figure out mechanics for that, but if you do, it should A, feel rewarding once they have done it, and B, feel like they're doing it when they're doing it, right?
Yeah. I think Nico, I think I've heard you talk about that system before, and I vaguely remember you mentioning this and talking about it. And yeah, exactly. That's it just seems rough. Like at a certain point, here's the general blanket statement that I will make about games is that in general, the mechanics of your game should serve the game. And if they don't, then get them the hell out of there. Cause
You know, it's shocking. Like listening to you hear that, I feel like I'm listening to myself when I'm tutoring writing. When I'm like, okay, so when you're writing your academic paper, I'll sit down so many times with the student and be like, okay, what's your thesis statement? They'll be like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, my next piece of advice doesn't work until we have one. And my next piece of advice is if you write it, it should serve your thesis statement. So we need to get one of those first.
yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of the same thing. Like you should decide what your game wants to accomplish, and then from that point, mechanics should serve that.
And it's like what Ray just said, the mechanics for playing, not padding, and I agree. And that's one of the things that I love about the Cypher system, because all the mechanics that are in it are like for playing the game. They don't try to like hit you with every single possible scenario and create rules for every possible scenario. Instead, they say, here's generally how things are done. You can extrapolate from that because we believe that you, the person reading this book, is an intelligent human being who is capable of making that kind of determination on their own. And that's great. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I think a good video game example of that is Spiritfarer, which I started playing recently. And there's a lot of things that you do in Spiritfarer that are like, because it's a management.
You've started playing Spiritfarer, John? I haven't heard you talk about it at all. That's weird.
It's a really fun game, Lucas.
Certainly a game I haven't heard of.
But like there's a bunch of like shit that you do in between things in Spiritfarer that like are essentially just ways of farming up currency or items or like things to fill out the management portions of the game, but they don't feel like padding. Like there's a way that you can like play music for your crops, essentially, to like the things that you're growing, so that you can do the other stuff that's like core to the gameplay, which is keeping the spirits on your boat happy and well fed, in addition to the other stuff you do. And like the way that they structure that in terms of like hitting keys in time makes it feel very much like you are playing a guitar, or like you're playing an instrument along with it. I mean, you don't have like the simulationist like a Guitar Hero thing, but I'm sure that somebody is going to do a speed run of that game using a DDR dance pad or like a Guitar Hero controller at some point.
For sure.
But
yeah. Yep. Sorry, I just fully blinked on everything. I've forgotten every word I've ever known except for these.
Wow, there's so many reasons why I play.
Yeah.
There's so many. I loved when I was a kid, I loved to play. When we were kids, we loved to play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a kid, so I still love to play. I love the landscape. I love the architecture. And it all comes down to our and you know him, he's right here with us, ladies and gentlemen, Lucas Santana, our very wonderful dungeon master that I am very honored to have been in so many games that you've run.
I will mute you right now. I will mute you.
I still love the time when we were making the map of High Rest, because that's another thing I just love about gaming is the maps and the detail of the cities.
Yeah.
Castles and
Uh-oh.
Oh
Did
no!
Freeman freeze?
For a second,
okay.
I thought it was me.
I may have for a second.
Yeah,
sorry,
you
I
did
just
for
got
like a
so
second.
emotional that my internet flickered, and it was like, shut up.
The internet's like you don't have enough bandwidth to transmit this much emotion.
The internet just heard. Oh, mute him. Okay.
But yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I don't know why I didn't think of that before, which is the idea of like maps. That's okay. Here's the crunch nerd in me is coming out because I love maps and tables and charts. I love those parts of TTRPGs. Favorite things. I love them so much. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. That was really all I had to say. Well, not all, but part of what I had to say. The rest is it will come out more and more as I keep talking, assuming that the thought ever reaches me again. But I also love rolling for charts a lot. It's just something you forget to do.
It's just it's I enjoy organized chaos, right? So that's why I love as a GM, I enjoy not knowing what's going to happen because I do know what's going to happen more often than not because it's literally my job to know that in many cases. And so in those rare instances where I can create scenarios where I don't know what's going to happen, I love it. I love that. That's why I love charts. I love the wild sorcerer in D&D. I love all of those things because while the character may not be I cause problems on purpose, the player sure is. Me, this guy.
Oh my god. I loved that moment like I love random encounter tables too, like for times that parties, at least, you know, for D&D, for when the party is traveling in between places, because like sometimes it can be like, oh, there's some bears, or sometimes it's like, oh, your level 8 party is traveling along, huh? Rock. Like as an ROC, there's a rock now. And you have to deal with this giant sized bird of prey that is hunting you.
Yeah, geek outs. The bears.
The bears?
The bears.
But no, the other thing that I thought of a moment ago when Freeman was talking about play is it Jane McGonigal that talks about like integrating play into like not just kids time, and like how important it is to carry that. Like we're told that we're supposed to stop playing at some point because adults don't play, and that's very very not true. Adults like need to play just as much as kids do.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's right. That was a thing that I also wanted to comment on because so much of the time, like around the time where like we hit 11 or 12, so much of our society is structured around telling us, all right, you're done with that now. You don't play anymore. You don't make believe. You don't do any of that anymore. Now it's time for reality. And if you don't conform to that, then you haven't grown up. You're childish, and that's considered a negative thing, which like it can be taken to extremes, as anything can, but like but in and of itself, I think it's a very healthy thing. Yeah, exactly. You are here to work and then die. Yeah, exactly.
Hell nah.
Exactly. That's exactly the kind of thing that yeah, that Geek Outs beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to say next. Capitalism. We had a whole rant about this yesterday in the staff room chat on Discord. Had a whole rant about
I read
this.
through that. I read through
Oh my
Love
god,
it.
that was so good.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's so therapeutic.
Absolutely. I saw that and I was like, ah.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. That's the mentality, and I think that it's a it's a way that it's very the act of playing as an adult is an act of rebellion. It's a very punk thing to do, I think. You know.
Sure.
Fuck yeah.
It's very punky of me.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it worth doing. That's not the only thing that makes it worth doing. Absolutely not. But but it's absolutely an important part of it. It's one of the things that, in sort of a grander sense, makes it an important thing to be a part of, I think.
Yeah.
Happiness is a form of protest. Yes, it is.
we've probably got time, I think, to like kind of chew our way through one more question. Anyone got like anyone in chat or in call here have a burning question that they would like answered before the end?
I've never set a question on fire before, but
You
um,
know,
yeah. But I've heard it can be done.
mhm. If anyone knows how to do it, that fireworks cryptid from my high school probably knows how. that guy that guy had set fire to more things than I knew existed as a high schooler and could be set fire to.
Ooh, good question, Ray. Oh, what was the first game that made you feel something emotional? Mass Effect. I had that answer like right there, right? Because like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Huh.
not. I mean, Mass Effect as in like
Hmm.
the Mass Effect series, like the whole. Yeah, Mass
I'm
Effect.
gonna answer. I'm gonna answer both TTRPG and
Huh.
video game.
Oh, me
Um,
too. Critical Role.
Hmm.
mhm. Oh God, I had never cried.
Okay.
I had before Critical Role. Like I had played only like a few 3.5 one shots in college, and you know the group that I played those 3.5 one shots with, Lucas.
They are
And
the same reason that I did not play any more TTRPG or D&D for quite some time. So yes, I do know that
very
group.
very grognardy.
Hmm.
um, but for me, funnily enough, I can remember, and it remains one of my favorite games, and I still play it every couple of years. But it was Super Metroid as a kid. Um, and there's just something about the environment of Super Metroid. Actually, no, it wasn't. It's two games in the Metroid series. I'm going to cheat and say two. But like, I remember Super Metroid really like hit those exploration vibes for me. There was this wonder to all of it, like because the game didn't really like tell you anything about what you were supposed to be doing. So there was this element of it that was like discovery to me, especially as a kid that like really didn't know how to play video games very well. Like discovering how to do things, like that sense of wonder I remember with Super Metroid. And then a few years later, the Game Boy game Metroid Fusion came out, and I don't know if either of you played that game, but there's essentially like this clone of you wind up like infected by some kind of parasite that robs you of all of your powers, and then worse, the parasite like clones you out of the powers that it stole. And so you're like on this abandoned space station that's full of these like parasite possessed monsters, and a super powered version of you is hunting the not powered at all version of you for like half the game, more than half the game. And I remember just like that is the best horror game that I have ever played, was like an early 2000s Game Boy Advance game.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Um.
It's a hard question to answer for me, and I, I really don't know. I want to say that um, there was a moment in Infinite Horizon where uh, there's a moment for Mason that I'm not going to say in case some people have not caught up. Wow, that kind of it kind of like really hit me, and um, more on that though. Um, I think I'm gonna give I'm gonna give that a more of a think. I'm gonna probably respond in the Ramblemancy chat because I really do need to give that a thought.
Yeah. Um.
I suddenly just got very warm.
I know the temperature has been slowly rising in this room because of the big fuck off light back there. Um.
mhm.
Let's see. There were some other questions that thank thank you Gemini for. I was gonna tell chat, remember to ask Freeman about this on Wednesday, but you got there. Um, there was another question.
Oops, what have I done?
Geek
Perfect.
Outs asked, what is a game that you haven't run yet for players, and what is a game that you want to play but no one has run yet? Also, Gemini Lightning, yes, Rip Tamlin, but also the city elf is also very sad. That whole like. Anyway, that's my favorite. It unrelated to anything we're talking about, but playing Dragon Age Origin, with the city elf origin that's the only way for me to play. Anyway, so
I have an answer for something that I would like to play sometime, and that is Star Trek Adventures. I was sick at
That's
the time that you
right.
guys played the STA game.
Yeah.
And I'm so sad about that because like watching Clear Skies now and then like hearing you guys talk about it after the fact and hearing about Shield of Tomorrow, like I'm just like I want to play so bad. I want to play so bad sometime, but yeah, Geeky Guts, I want to be a red shirt.
Yeah. Oh God. I. Okay. Sure, but Geek Outs. Here's the thing. Here's the caveat. All right. I'm mostly familiar with the TNG era, so you're gonna have to be a gold shirt. So.
True.
Cool. Tasha.
Oh, it's like 2 decades old, but too soon.
It's much more than 2 decades old.
I always forget that Star Trek: The Next Generation is like 90s?
80s. It started in the
80s.
Yeah.
God,
I want to say 87 is when it started.
I have this revelation every time, but I'm like, fuck, that's an 80s show.
Yeah. It's wild. Yep, 87.
Wow. Okay. Anyway.
Okay. So let's see. I would say for what I want to run. Well, I do have a copy of Outbreak Undead that's just been sitting on my shelf staring at me for 2 years. I'd like to do that. I'd love to run an Outbreak Undead game, or at the very least, maybe not Outbreak Undead specifically, like the system, but at the very least, I want to run like a post-apocalyptic or zombie game. I'd love to do that. I've been wanting to do that. I've been wanting to do that for years. Freeman can tell you because he was there while like listening to me several years ago, just like going off about what I would do.
And me loving every bit of it. It's a fun genre too.
Yeah,
I mean,
and one that I've not really explored at all in TTRPGs. And I think as far as games I'd want to play, I'd like to play in a Star Trek Adventures game because I've never done that. I've run them before, but I've never played Star Trek Adventures. So I think that's my answer to those questions.
Yeah, a little bit in terms of I didn't answer the thing I would like to run. And Mall Kids doesn't really count because nobody runs Mall Kids. You all just play Mall Kids. There's no GM in that game.
Yeah.
But I'm holding the answer to my question, which is maybe a little bit of a cop-out. I have run Cypher once before, but I really, 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 really want to run a fairy tale game. And I just got this in the mail today, and I'm very excited to start putting things together.
You know what's really... This should tell you something about my current like brain capacity is that you were holding that this whole time, and I'm like, why is he holding that book? I don't understand. And like all the while talking about games that I want to run. So like, just so that you know the current level that I'm operating at. Ray says, Lucas, let's make it happen. I'm here for it. Let's do it. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm here for it. I don't care. I don't even care. I want to play Star Trek Adventures so bad. All right. Anyway.
Oh my God. Gemini learns how to run Star Trek Adventures, maybe. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. Here's my Discord server. Star Trek Adventures, maybe.
Oh, perfect. Nice. Our resident bard.
Ooh, also because you made that reference, I have been weirdly curious about the Carly Rae Jepsen theme hack for Lasers and Feelings. I kind of want to though. I really do.
I really hope. I don't think that Karaoke Night is still in chat right now, or Jolly Jolly Old Up Next List. But I know I would die to play in that game with both of
Yeah,
them.
I would love that. Them specifically because they are two of the funniest people I've ever met in my entire life, and yeah,
I'd also love to play a Lasers and Feelings game that isn't super fucking heavy.
Yeah.
That game
Oh,
is
gosh.
supposed to be jokey, and the first time I played it,
that reminds me, Ray, the other day during the charity stream, I tuned in for the Lasers and Feelings game, and oh my god, the chaos! I loved that so much. The chaos. I had no idea what was going on at any point, but it was pretty clear that neither did anybody else, including the GM. So that made it just delightful. Yeah.
what is happening? I don't know. Roll some dice.
Nobody knows. I'm pretty sure that was literally something the GM said at one point. They were just like, nobody knows.
Chaos Creep. I love that idea. They said, see, if I were to do a fairy tale game, I'd have my players be ordinary people and have them all enter the nearby forest. And after it's too late, they realize that they're stuck within the hit musical Into the Woods.
Amazing.
Oh my
Absolutely.
god. That'd be such. Okay, all right, hear me out. That'd be such a fun Halloween campaign.
It would be.
Oh yeah, see, okay. Vertiman says all this talk about the Star Trek Adventures TTRPG just giving me flashbacks. Yeah, I traumatized Vertiman just a little bit.
You traumatize your players?
What?
Never.
Anyway, yeah. Not for real, but yes, his character certainly had some things happen to him. But yeah. It was a rough day for the chief engineer. Let's put it that way.
No.
It was a rough day.
No.
It feels like it's always a rough day for the chief engineer. I haven't seen that much of Clear Skies, but Tack,
Yeah.
I just want to give him a hug, man.
Let's just say nothing about Miles O'Brien.
Poor man.
Poor Miles O'Brien. Also, Lucas, why would you do this game?
That was the fastest I've ever retweeted a meme in my life.
It's the fastest I've ever made a meme in my entire life, so look forward to eventually getting the system I'm working on to a playable shape. I would love to see it. I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I think we have reached the end.
The end.
Just
The end.
not of the stream, just in general. That's dark. All right, let's
last-
pretend I didn't say that. Although in
Rewind.
fairness, there were more murder hornets found in my town today. So,
Yeah,
That's true.
Frankly, it's a miracle that we made it through the stream without any of the three of us dying. So, I mean, there were wasps in my room and murder hornets in your town. So, like,
It's okay. The raccoon took care of them. I think most of them. So I hear.
hold your breath and count to 10. Is that a what's that? Is that a reference to something? Because that rhyme is horrifying.
oh,
Which-
yep,
There we go.
there it is. We got it.
The sky falls.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go. But before we do, just gonna take some time to remind you all that patrons and Twitch subscribers now can see our cast announcement for It Came From the Loop, the Tales from the Loop game that Caitlin will be running in just a couple of weeks, actually. So that is there, and you can go freak out about that in the Discord in the designated channel.
Loop?
But yeah, everybody else, for everyone else, we will be announcing that publicly on Wednesday during the day. So that means that you get to come here in the evening and freak out to us in person, and we get to freak out with you because we will no longer have to sit on our hands and vibrate out of existence while containing that secret. So, let's see. Yes. Tomorrow evening, I believe at 6 p.m. Pacific, John and I will be streaming video games. The video game that I've been talking about for weeks that are going to be playing, which is Empyrean Galactic Survival, which I play that game because it's got exploration, it's got base and ship building, it's got combat, it has hardcore survival mechanics that aren't don't make the game terrible to play.
Lucas knows all about him. I don't.
Yeah, I've played a lot of this game, many hours. John has not. John's played a few hours with me.
That's gonna be good.
It's gonna involve a lot of John getting in over his head and me falling right down that hole with him because I tried to help but did it incorrectly and forgot a bunch of important stuff like all the medical supplies back at the base, and then pretty soon we're both dying to dermal parasites and it's all terrible.
Oh my gosh.
This
Wow.
is not at all in any way based on a real actual experience.
I was
This
just
definitely
to
didn't
ask.
actually happen.
Totally didn't. Not at all.
Last week.
That doesn't sound like something that could happen to you guys. Nah, I can't see it.
Yeah, no, that's not a thing that happened. We also definitely didn't take two
Man.
snub fighters against a full-on defense base and get blown out of the sky. That didn't happen either. We will
I
be
remember
getting
being-
revenge for that thing that didn't happen tomorrow, because now we have a bunch of big fuck off guns. Anyway, that's gonna be what we're gonna be doing tomorrow. And you
Please
get
join us. for
Please
the
join
chaos.
us. Please join us for Space Chaos. Which I realize describes a lot of Rule of Lore's content, but we're moving on. What else? There was another thing that I was going to say. For patrons, a note that this week we did not, because there was other stuff happening on Patreon, we decided to combine the Tabletop Tool Chest and Media Club. They're both coming out on the same day, which will be this coming week. Typically Tuesdays. Tuesday afternoon is evening is when it happens. So, we're not Rule of Lore anymore. We're officially Space Chaos. You know what? I'm gonna call something Space Chaos. Something that we do here on Rule of Lore. I'm gonna call it Space Chaos. I don't know what it's gonna be. Probably tomorrow night's stream. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
we're gonna do it. Okay, and I think that's everything. Wednesday, we are having our Infinite Horizon Season 1 wrap-up, where we will be hanging out with the cast and writer's room, and we'll be talking about the season, talking about our predictions for next season, our reactions to this season. It's going to be a fun time. So at that point, the spoiler ban will be lifted on the final episode of the season, so you will be able to come and talk about everything, all of it. So welcome back, Karaoke Night 69, just in time for us to probably raid somebody. Is that what we're about right now?
I think that is
that's
what
right.
we are about right now.
All right, let's see. That's not Twitch. Hold on. Who's on?
Yes.
Who's doing stuff right now? I see that Saving Throw Show is on.
I see that.
Let's see. I don't have too many of the channels that I follow that are streaming right now. Gemini says, I will be here trying not to ask all the questions. Hey, ask whatever questions you got. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Let's see. I don't have anybody off. Let's see. Chandra. Let's raid Chandra.
Oh,
Chandra's raided us
absolutely.
several times. It's our turn now.
Let's do it.
Go raid Chandra. Yeah, that's a good call, Geekouts. Hold on. Let me set this up. Yeah, Chandra is one of the elder mods with the League of Whimsy. Actually, the Streampunks.
Awesome.
let's see. I think this is. Hold on. What is Chandra's actual channel name? Because I don't actually have it in my list, which I'm going to fix. So yeah, Geek Outs or somebody, if you wouldn't mind letting me know. Is it just Chandra VG? Chandra VD. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
I knew it was something
yep,
like
yep.
that. Gotcha.
Yeah, SHANDRA, and then VDEG.
Okay, awesome. All right, here we go. We're getting the raid started. So, everybody, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow, but if not, we'll see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night and good zone, everyone.